I'm going to share just for a couple minutes. You know, for the last several weeks, we've been talking about cadence, the rhythms of our lives and how we live. And I wanted to wrap that up today. I want to wrap up that series this morning. It's ironic that last week we talked about fellowship when none of you could be here. But this morning, I want to talk about an aspect of cadence that we all start at. Now, I don't know how long you've known Jesus. I don't know how long you've been a part of the family of God. But the fact of the matter is, when we first start, we start with passion. It's the beginning of a relationship. You're deeply in love with Jesus. And I imagine you're probably still deeply in love with Him. But the first days of when you get to know Him, your life has changed. I heard a great testimony today of somebody 71 years old, radically saved at 19 years old, saved from drugs and alcohol, and they've pastored a great church for many, many years, grew a great big church, passionate in their relationship with Jesus. But you know, the challenge is that when we first learn to walk in rhythm with Jesus, the cadence of life, we get bumps in the road, don't we? We have a passion, but then we hit adversity. And when we hit adversity, it's where we lose our step. It's where we lose our routine. It's where we lose the rhythm that we're looking for. It's why we put speed bumps in the parking lot, because some of you need to slow down. But sometimes in our life, these speed bumps, these points of adversity, we don't recover from. We don't find our way back. And it leaves a mark in our life. I don't know if you've ever had surgery or a major scar in your life. Physically, it doesn't come back the way it was. Scar tissue develops. And if you've ever suffered from back pain, you learn how to walk in a funny way so your back doesn't hurt, but then before long your hip starts hurting, right? So then you got to adjust for that, and before long you're walking all weird, but it doesn't hurt. But what are you doing? You're actually making the problem worse. Adversity is the thing that throws us off. I think everyone, when they first come to know Jesus, they plan on loving Him just as much in the future as they do in the moment that they met Him. But life happens, doesn't it? Think of the Apostle Paul's life. Beaten several times within an inch of his life. Shipwrecked, thrown in prison. Adversity hit. Time and time again. A lot of times, we don't recover. Now, it's not that we walk away from Jesus. Not that we quit coming to church, although I heard an interesting thing. Church attendance statistics, pre-COVID, the average church attendance was 1.7 times a month. 1.7 times a month. Now, you might go, well, that's crazy. I'm here 4 times a month. That's great. But that was the average, is 1.7. Post-COVID, the average time to attend church is less than once a month. What happened? The pandemic threw off people's rhythm, threw off their cadence. For months, they weren't able to go to church. And before long, they forgot how to dance. They didn't even come anymore. It's an interesting statement. It's not that fewer people are coming, it's just that they're coming less often. Now, this isn't about church attendance, but it's an example. When the rhythm of our life gets disrupted, we learn to flow in that new rhythm, and what we start to do is we accept that new rhythm as how life is. And we forget about how life was. You know, the joy and the excitement that you first felt when you came to Jesus, that's what he wants you to feel every single day when you wake up. Now, he wants you to grow in your knowledge. He wants you to grow in your understanding and the depth of your relationship. But he still wants you to wake up excited to be in his family. But over time, adversity, people tell you, you can pray about it, but it's not going to change anything. And maybe you've prayed about it, and nothing changed. People tell you can believe, you can go to church and you can sing those songs, but you're only doing it to make yourself feel better. You know, there's a lot of people that actually believe that. The only reason we sing and worship is because it soothes something in us. But I know that when I come and worship, it brings joy to my Father. But people want you to believe that the current state of your life is the best it's going to get. Can I tell you? God has better for you. Don't believe the adversity. Don't believe the hardship. Does it mean dismiss it and ignore it? No. But don't let it define you. Because when we get out of rhythm, it's so easy to stay offbeat. But that's not God's hope for us. That's not God's desire for us. You know, this song, one of the songs we sang, Fix Our Eyes on Jesus, it reminded me of actually the first part of Hebrews chapter 12. I shared the end of Hebrews 12. But the beginning of Hebrews 12 is of great encouragement. And I want to share it with you. This was not part of the plan, but that's okay, because it goes right along with so many of the prayers that we make throughout the week. Hebrews chapter 12, verse 1 says this, "Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, the author and perfecter of our faith, who for the joy set before him endured the cross, scorning its shame, and sat down at the right hand of the throne of God. Consider him who endured such opposition from sinful men, so that you will not grow weary and lose heart." We start with a passion, but adversity throws us off our rhythm, our cadence. How do we get back in to rhythm? The answer is right in this verse. Let us run with perseverance. Perseverance allows us to find God's rhythm in the long term. Because how many of you know, in the short term, sometimes things look insurmountable, like there's no way to overcome it. But when you look in the length of our lives, the history of our lives, the faithfulness of God, we find a rhythm where God restores that which the enemy tries to take from us. The life of Paul is a great testimony of it. 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 7 says this. This is the same Apostle Paul that has been beaten, chained up, shipwrecked. He says in 2 Timothy 4:7, "I have fought the good fight. I have finished the race. And I have kept the faith." Perseverance is what brings us to the place where through the adversity and the difficulty, we discover the passion that brought us to the cross to begin with. Perseverance is where we find the cadence and rhythms of God in our lives in the long term, in the day-to-day, in those moments where we feel overwhelmed and as if we're going to be crushed. Here's the thing that we all need to understand. It's not how you start that matters. It's how you finish. And you might be in a point right now where you say, Jesus, I'm out of rhythm with you. I have no idea what you're trying to say, what you're trying to do, what you're trying to reveal to me. Listen, there's moments when we go through this in life. God, I can't take any more. Don't put any more on me. God, I've got all I can handle. As I told somebody, maybe it wasn't your burden to carry. Maybe you need to lay it at the foot of the cross and leave it there. I've watched people, not necessarily within this church, but I've watched people do this before. Come to the church, they have a burden, they come get prayed for, they sit down at the altar, they worship, they cry, they lay a big old pile of snot right there, and it's one of those things, they're heartbroken. I've laid it here at the altar. They go back to their seat, but at the end of service, just before they walk out, they walk back down, they pick it up and take it with them. When you lay it at the feet of Jesus, leave it at the foot of Jesus and trust that He's going to restore the joy of your salvation and to renew a right spirit. You remember that old song? Restore unto me the joy of my salvation and renew a right spirit unto me. Cadence is about finding the rhythm of God in your life in the long term. The deepening of your faith. A restoration of those things that are lost in adversity. And finding the rhythms of life as guided by the Holy Spirit. Wherever you're at right now, regardless of how close or how far you are from Jesus in this moment, guess what? It's not over. It's not over. You have opportunity to come back to right relationship with Him and to find that rhythm that the Spirit has for you. And you can feel the flow of the Spirit and be guided and led. I think 2022 is going to be a great year. Do you know why? Because it's the year of my Lord. Today can be the best day you've ever had. Do you know why? Because this is the day that the Lord has made. You can be the best you've ever been. Why? Because you are God's precious child. He created you. It can get better. Does that mean all the circumstances and situations of your life are going to fall away? No. But He can restore the joy of your salvation because we have a living hope that comes from knowing that Jesus is the author and perfecter of our faith. It can get better. When we get in step with the Holy Spirit, we shut out the devil that wants to tell us this is as good as it gets. This is not as good as it gets. And things might be going good for you, but it's not as good as it gets. Jesus has better. Jesus has better. Let's continue to walk in alignment with His Holy Spirit. Align ourselves with Him.